We saw progress on the football field at South Carolina in 2016. We see progress in the recruiting rankings that Will Muschamp and company hope translate to the field here in 2017. And, of course, probably more so beyond that. We bring in Will Gunter from the all-new early game there on 107.5 The Game. Will, thanks for joining us. We know that you've had a long day and you've had a lot of good interviews with these South Carolina signees.
It's a fun day. I love signing day. I've loved it since I got into this business. I'm probably one of the few recruiting nerds, as my co-host calls me. Man, national or local, whatever it may be. I've been out there before and chasing kids around. Enjoyed doing it from behind the microphone today and being able to talk with them and not having to be out on the streets and covering it like I used to. But it's a fun day. I enjoy it. It's the start of a new season for everybody.
I know that I lean on you all year, but I'm going to lean on you a little bit more when it comes to recruiting. So you're going to have to do some heavy lifting here for me. The South Carolina class a little bit better maybe than a lot of people anticipated because two big signees leaned South Carolina's way, and Will Muschamp got him to sign on the dotted line this afternoon.
Yeah, it's for you to say it like that. I'll be honest. If we did this a year ago, if we'd have done this just 3 months after Will Muschamp had been signed, I probably would have thought that he was going to have a top 15 class. And he would have. They lost Hamza Nasrilladeen to Florida State just about a week and a half ago, and that might have cost him a top. I think they're anywhere between about 16 and 20 right now, depending on which website, which publication you look at. And had they not lost Nasrilladeen, that really could have maybe bolstered. That's a big time prospect. I think Rivals has him ranked as the 63rd best prospect in the country. That was a young man, a safety that flips to Florida State kind of at the very end. He'd been committed since August and had actually flipped official visit to South Carolina. So that really could have changed things just from a perception standpoint. But it is a good class. They addressed some of the things that they needed to do. I think the wide receiving class, as they continue, as Will Muschamp tries to change the perception of his offense, the wide receiving class is very, very strong with Shi Smith, Trey Smith, and Chad Terrell. And then they brought in some defensive backs to continue to help that area as well, some defensive linemen.
Yeah, the two guys that I alluded to earlier, Javon Kinlaw and also Aaron Sterling, weak strong side defensive ends that come in highly rated at their position, especially Kinlaw. And you got a chance to talk to him this afternoon.
We did, and Javon Kinlaw is an interesting situation because last year he was a high school senior. Will Muschamp and the staff fast-tracked him through the junior college program. They got him as he had no chance to actually qualify last year coming out. So instead of him spending 2 years in a junior college program, they fast-tracked him, sent him to Jones Community College basically in February. They got his GED, and they sent him down there. Now, the thing with this, he still has some work to do. He's he said today he's 330 pounds. The bio listed on the South Carolina site said 340 pounds. He does need to lose weight. He's still very raw. This is a prospect that is developing, but he's got 3 years to play. He's got 4 years of eligibility, so he can redshirt a year. But they need him. They need him right off the bat. And this is a young man that came down to Southern Cal in South Carolina. He said this morning he just had to go with South Carolina. He missed here. He went up to Southern Cal. He didn't hear any crickets and didn't have any humidity and couldn't live out in Southern Cal. So South Carolina was the place to be, and it was a big pickup for them. But he's still got to get in shape. He's still got to get through the rest of junior college, to be quite honest, because they've got him on a program that, again, fast-tracks him through that stuff.
We've talked the last couple of years since the program dropped down from that 11-win total. It's been alarming at times for an SEC team to have some depth issues to the degree that this team has at particular units. Defensive backfield has been an issue in the last couple of years. In addition to getting excited about the talent of these guys, but the needs that they fill, what is the best combination of the two when you look at the talent that's coming in versus the needs that they fill that get you excited about maybe 2 or 3 of these guys, maybe a little bit more so than a few other guys?
Well, I think the defensive line, they've already got MJ Webb, who was a big-time prospect. They've already got him on campus. He actually enrolled and was able to go through some of bowl practice. Javon Kinlaw is obviously we just discussed him. You mentioned Aaron Sterling, who was at one time committed to Alabama. And, however they elected to part ways is what it is. We saw Alabama today elect to try and part ways with 4-star defensive end Jerez Parks. like a gray shirt to stay on at Alabama is what it looks like. Alabama's able to do things like that. So, but they don't recruit. Alabama doesn't recruit bums. So that lets you know Aaron Sterling's got a chance to be a solid football player down the line. He's 6'2". Kind of interesting today. Again, all the heights and weights come from the official visit. And something that instantly caught our attention was the fact that Aaron Sterling was listed at 6'2", 238 pounds. Now, everywhere else we've seen and heard him listed is closer to 260, 265. So it makes you wonder what exactly he'll weigh. But again, that's a guy who can rush the passer. And then they finished the day around noon today with Brad Johnson, which was a big pass rusher here from the state of South Carolina. So I think continuing to upgrade the defensive line was the best thing they did.
Will, does Muschamp's strategy in regards to the geography that he's looking at seem to differ from what we saw Spurrier go after? I see a ton of Georgia players, and we've seen in recent years, Georgia's always been a talent-rich state, but even more so in recent years that it's starting to challenge the likes of Florida, Texas, and California in regards to top 300 recruits. And this class is just littered of the Peach State variety.
Well, it is. I think they landed 5 out of the top 23 Georgia prospects. But, the Georgia, I don't think the state of Georgia, in my opinion, is over-recruited. I've talked to people about this. I think it's over-analyzed. There is certainly a lot of talent there. And South Carolina is going to go in. Obviously, the headliner is Jamias Williams, the defensive back out of Grayson High School. And that's a big pickup for them. The way you posed the question, I think the biggest difference was seeing an emphasis on North Carolina, going in and getting offensive lineman Eric Douglas, getting linebacker Sherrod Green, and getting safety Jalen Dickerson, just amongst a couple guys that they were after. And I think seeing that focus on those particular players in the state of North Carolina, that was an area when Steve Spurrier landed a player, Chris Culliver, Melvin Ingram, even a J.T. Surratt, Travian Robertson, when they let Pharaoh Cooper. There wasn't many, but when they landed North Carolina players, there was a pretty high success rate. And South Carolina, for whatever reason, didn't focus a lot of efforts into the state of North Carolina over the recent years. You can go back to the great runs that Tennessee had in the 90s under Phil Fulmer, and a lot of those kids came from the state of North Carolina. They were running Tennessee was running amok in the state of North Carolina, recruiting and pulling good players. And I think you saw a little bit of that with Will Muschamp and this staff. I expect that to be, I know you mentioned Georgia, North Carolina to be more of an emphasis in 2018 for the University of South Carolina.
Well, that's why we have Jan. You don't give us the run-of-the-mill take. So the recruiting angle and understanding that North Carolina may not be loaded with top-end players, but South Carolina's had success there in the past, and there are some definite gems there in North Carolina. Will Gunter from the all-new early game, 107.5 The Game. Will, we know you've had a long day, and you are capping it off with us, so we appreciate you making one more stop to talk recruiting before you can kind of let this leave your mind at least for another 12 or 14 hours.
I shave. I'm going to shave. That's the first. A shave, a shower, and a dinner. It's been. I love this time of year, though. I've got ESPN on in the background. I'll watch that all day long and keep track of some of the national storylines, and just seeing the excitement of the future. I've been around some of these kids, and it's an exciting day for a lot of kids. You mentioned the Javon Kinlaw interview, and really a neat story with him as he talked about some of the trials and the tribulations he'd been through trying to get to signing day. He didn't know if this day would ever come. He was sent to junior college. He didn't know if he could make it growing up in Goose Creek, and he knew he was a good football player, but would he ever get the opportunity to do it? To hear that story, to hear some other stories, it's always a lot of fun. And so I think South Carolina had a successful day. They've got to go out and win football games now and continue to show that Will Muschamp can be a successful coach in the SEC.
All right, it's the top 20 class there in Columbia, South Carolina. Now it's time to coach them up. Will Muschamp trying to win more than 6 games. He took the Gamecocks from 3 wins to 6. Now it's time to compete in the SEC East with the likes of Georgia, Tennessee, and Florida. Will Gunter from the all-new early game there on 107.5. Will, we always appreciate the time.
Glad you could have me, man. No better way to finish off the day. It's time for some dinner and a nap.